Good day, family and friends. Captain Andrew has asked that several of us provide a daily devotional over the course of a single week. And my experience, at least looking at the first devotional, is that all the male counterparts need to have a goatee in order to participate. And so you'll see I've grown my facial hair for that very reason. During this course in time, I thought it might be worthwhile to look at the book of Judges. The book of Judges is a book where the people of God end up being confined. They be stopped or stayed or stagnant in their fulfilling the mission of God. It would seem that they're confined in terms of their mobility, confined in terms of their access to goods and services in God's promised land. And so that might ring a bell for some of us during this period of time that we're in right now. Now, somebody has told me that a text without context is a pretext. And so I'd like us to look at the book of Judges in terms of its context of overall Scripture. You'll know it's before the book of Samuel, where the period of the kings and the advancement of God's kingdom kind of takes place. And it is preceded by the book of Joshua, where perhaps the greatest achievements in terms of possessing the promises that God has made takes place. You'll know that in the book of Joshua, the stock market was never as successful as it was during that period of time. You'll know that there was total employment in the country. In fact, the tribes that had already settled on the east side of the Jordan, who could easily have sat back in their rocking chair by the fireplace and read an entertaining novel with a cup of coffee in their hand for the rest of their lives, were so energized by being part of the program of God and to achieve His purposes that they left the comfort of their homes and were fully engaged in the projects that God had in mind for establishing the promised land. Now, the book of Joshua begins with a deep commitment, covenant commitment for the people of God. And they fulfill that commitment for the most part throughout the book. But Joshua is a pragmatist. He knows the nature of humanity, which is to fall away once there's some success already taking place. And so the book of Joshua ends with another commitment, an invitation by Joshua in chapter 24 and verse 15. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your fathers served beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose hand you are living. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Some folk have suggested that I might be a handyman, and that may or may not be true. But in the projects that I take on, one of the most important tools, and perhaps the most important tool in my toolbox, is a measuring tape. It lets me know the right proportions of the things that I'm preparing, whether or not they'll fit in that big master plan of the final outcome for the project. And for us, during this period of time, one of the most important tools we might have will be that spiritual measuring tape that will help us assess, are the parts of our lives, those aspects that we give over to God, do they measure up? Do they fit into the master plan that God has? Or are we not achieving the great purposes for God? Well, during the time that we spend together, I hope over and over again we'll be able to answer that question in the affirmative. And with Joshua, be able to say, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. May this be an encouragement and an expectation that you'll be able to look at and be motivated by over the course of these days. May God bless you.